All right, so this webinar is the second in our series of webinars. So every month we're going to bring in experts in the industry to share key insights just about how cloud migration can accelerate a digital transformation and just help your customer experience get to the next level. So the upcoming webinars for the rest of the year have already been planned out. You'll definitely want to join us for each of those every month. We've got special guests lined up. I'm really excited about the topics that we have. So I think it's going to be really great. Today, we've got a special guest joining us, Jeremy Markey. He has a long background in contact center. He's the Director of Customer Service Operations and Workforce Experience at Hunter Douglas. We're thrilled to have him. He's super knowledgeable, and it's going to be a great webinar. If you guys have questions, go ahead and put those into the chat, and then we'll have a chance at the end to go over questions that you guys might have for Jeremy. Otherwise, make sure you stay muted, and I am going to go ahead and let our speakers introduce themselves. So, Kurt, why don't you take it away?
Sounds good. Nice to be with everybody today. Kurt Furmanek here. I'm a customer experience solutions engineer with Vertical Communications. Got over 20 years experience in the industry, actually closer to 25. Pleasure to be with everybody. I will be your moderator today, and pleased to have with us our industry expert, Jeremy Markey. Jeremy, if you'd be kind enough to give yourself a more formalized introduction.
Yeah, when Jeff said long, when he's talking about my background, I think he's saying I'm old. Pretty sure that's what I heard. Yeah, 25 plus years in the industry, first party, third party, multiple different industries. I love it.
Outstanding. Glad to have you with us today. I've had the pleasure of doing these in the past with Jeremy, and also don't forget to check out his blogs and his articles that he has. He's got quite a number of them that are all within the customer experience realm, and he brings a lot of insight. So there's a lot of terrific content that's out there that's been produced by Jeremy. So, look him up, and we're thrilled to have him as part of today's webinar. Again, the topic for today is how great CX or customer experience can grow your bottom line. And with that, let's go to the first question that we've got here for Jeremy, our first topic of discussion. And the first topic that we're looking at is, common thinking is that if you're designing a customer experience solution, let's think about where we want to be at the end of all this. And then where we think we want to be, we'll work our way backward to come up with how do we get there. Jeremy, do you agree with that approach? And based upon your answer, why do you feel that way?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. Next question. No, I'm teasing. Typically, starting with the end in mind, that's typically referred to as design thinking in the industry. It's widely recognized as probably the most effective way to create a customer-centric experience. For example, it allows you to focus on the customer, right? It ensures that the customer's needs and expectations are at the center of the design process. It helps create a meaningful, valuable experience for your customers. Second, it gives us goal clarity. Clarity on specific outcomes that we have decided that these are what we want to achieve. This is where we want to go. And it allows us to set those measurable targets and track progress effectively to those targets. It allows us, number three, it allows us to reverse engineer, starting with the end in mind, from where we are to where we want to go, taking it apart step by step to achieve what that outcome needs to be. And we can then identify along that path, what are those critical touch points, critical processes? What are the critical interactions that need to be in place for that outcome to be realistic? Number four, it helps through problem identification. We can identify these obstacles, these challenges that can hinder the desired customer experience, and we can identify them before we get there, solving for those friction points before the customer calls them out to us. And we can anticipate that and address it early in that design process rather than solving them when we encounter them once it's live. And lastly, and the fifth one is it allows for iterative design, right? It gives us the ability to continually test, refine, use the customer feedback and data that we get, incorporate it into our feedback loops, and give us that incremental improvement once that process is already out there. That starting in any other way tends not to work. And by starting with the end in mind, it is, in my opinion, the best way to make sure that the customer is at the forefront.
And as part of all of this, it sounds a lot like when you're engaging then with the customer and trying to keep this in mind, you really have to do a superior job up front of engaging with the customer more than just what have you got now, and do you have so many of this and so many of that, and really it's more understanding aspirational items, goals, thinking outside of the box. Is that a good way to describe how your approach should be when trying to understand how to get to this goal-oriented type of a solution?
I think it depends on the industry that you're in and where you are in the industry. If your organization is fairly mature and is near the tip of the sword, I don't know that so much out of the box thinking is necessary. If you're in more of a organization that doesn't have quite the same mature CS modern experiences out there, right? So examples, telecom, for example, they're probably the customer service experts in many areas. They pioneered self-help. Telecom was doing chat in the 90s. A lot of companies are still like, oh man, we need to do this chat thing. Well, telecom had it in the 90s, right? So they're in a lot of ways the cutting edge. So for them, they're more at the refinement phase. If we are, I don't know, a small doctor's office or a veterinary clinic or plumbers or pest control or what have you, that's typically been more local businesses that don't have that national chain and that national area. They're just starting to get into that realm, envisioning what that experience and what that interaction can look like. Does require the out-of-the-box thinking of saying, okay, I'm not going to do business the way I've always done business. I need to look at this a little bit differently and try to think of it from the customer experience side instead of this is how I've always done it.
Excellent. Thank you for all that. Very good. Let's look at the next topic of discussion, if you would, please, Jeff. Why do you think that customers need to reach out to customer experience teams? Or along with that, what do you think is the root cause for somebody to have to reach out for assistance from a customer experience team?
Sure. The first one is easy. It's because we failed. All right. They don't reach out to us if we succeeded. If we succeeded with our customer experience, they don't contact us because they got what they needed with the default experience. So bottom line, they failed. So what are the root causes? So the most common root causes, and there's probably more than we have time to cover on this call, but the most common is number one is they need a resolution or support. And what I mean by that is we set an expectation that this is what that experience is, what that product is, what it's supposed to be, and that basic core experience has failed. So they need resolution or support to that. Like we're in the shades business. It could be that a shade was too big for the window or too small for the window. That would be considered a failure. That's the first one. Second one is they need assistance or information. That can often be seen in a similar light as resolution or support, but typically assistance or information is they're trying to achieve more. The core functionality is there, but they want to incorporate that core functionality in a better way with their workflows, their understanding, their experience. They want more from it or to get more from it themselves. The third one is they've got feedback or suggestions. This is typically, if they've got feedback or suggestions that they're providing, that's the reason why they've interacted. They're typically a maven. They're typically somebody who already either aligns with the product or better aligns with your organization. And they're asking for something to improve that functionality and that experience that more identifies with the way they see themselves, the way they see that product. And the last one I've got on my list is they want personalization or customization. They want a design change. They want us to do more than what the core functionality is. They want us to spread into new realms or new areas because they already identify with that organization so much. They want to keep having excuses to give us more money. And they're saying, if you do this, I will give you more. That's typically a good thing to try to chase.
That's fantastic. Excellent insight. But it's interesting that the root cause of all of these is the fact that there's a form of failure, and that form of failure can be, what can that be? Can that be the fact that we've not provided documentation that's readily available to them? Could it be the fact that support items that I should be able to have access to aren't accessible, and I'm kind of at my last ditch effort? How is that perceived and work as a failure?
I think that depends first on what our previous experiences have been. A lot of organizations that are in the medium to small range don't have an extensive self-help that's stood up, and they just publish phone numbers everywhere. In which case, that is the first step, is contact. Now, if we've got an offering, depending on how mature and expansive that offering is, the question is, how seamless is that self-help experience? And later on, we'll talk about omnichannel. But with that omnichannel, if it's a seamless experience or a transition from self-help to assisted help, and that everything follows, then they're more likely to stay in that self-help channel and start with that self-help channel. If their first experience with self-help is, now I call in and get a hold of Kurt, and Kurt's like, what can I help you with? Now you've made a big diminishment in their mind on the value of that self-help, because it wasn't valuable enough for that information to carry along to tell Kurt what I've already done. So why did I start with self-help? And now we're going to just start with Kurt to begin with.
Which could be a good thing, but then again, it could be a little bit more costly to an organization. And that's kind of what we're talking about, is trying to do things to help grow our bottom line. And to me, that sounds like something that kind of works in the opposite of that.
Spending more money on non-revenue generating resources tends to hurt the bottom line.
Absolutely. Very good. Jeff, let's look at our next topic of conversation, if you would, please. All right. So this kind of ties into our most recent topic here, and that was how important is the immediate access to answers to customers. It's not just a matter of having access, but that word immediate looks awfully important. What are your thoughts, Jeremy?
Immediate answers are highly important in today's market. It's an information-driven world, and I've got a couple of reasons why. So first, it's the customer expectation, right? It just is. Delayed or slow responses, they lead to frustration, negative perception, and poor customer experiences. I'm 45, gaining on 46 years old. I don't have patience for it. And I know my children absolutely have no patience. Sometimes it's about time sensitivity, right? Immediate answers help customers save time, help them make informed decisions, help them keep their activities on track, their day on track, right? When we've probably all heard of opportunity cost. When somebody is contacting us, they're losing out on the opportunity to experience whatever the rest of their life is, right? Whether it's watching something on Netflix, enjoying their children, going for a walk, they're losing out on that opportunity to spend time with us. So that time sensitivity is important. Customer satisfaction, right? Delayed or unavailable answers lead to frustration, dissatisfaction, customer churn. And when we talk about immediate, we're not saying instant. Those aren't synonyms in this context, right? The definition of immediate is your customer we determine immediate based on what our customers are telling us. They're telling us this through their CSAT, VOC, and NPS scores. There's a tipping point when it's taken them too long to find an answer where we'll see a hit in those scores. And we've got an article. I know we mentioned earlier some of our blogs. There's an article on your ASA is costing us money. This is the same type of thing, same type of look. Go look to see where that line is. And you can also see it in your abandon rate, but abandon rate isn't necessarily always a clean signal because other things can impact that. But the longer it takes you to offer that, or the more hops there are to get to that resolution, you'll see where you hit that tipping point where CSAT and VOC take a dive. And that's your definition of immediate. Before then, your customer considers it to be immediate. It could be 30 seconds. It could be 5 minutes. It could be a half an hour. It could be a couple of days, right? It depends on what your engagement with and what type of model you've got. But go measure the data and you'll see what immediate is. 4 is the competitive advantage, right? You prompt accurate information helps you build trust, build loyalty, positive reputation, gives your business edge in attracting and retaining customers. 5 are the self-service expectations. This not only satisfies their need for immediate answers, but it also reduces the strain on customer support and your costs, which you mentioned a moment ago. And lastly, brand perception, right? Slow and unavailable access to answers leads to negative perception, which damages your brand reputation. So while immediate access to answers is crucial, it's important to note that not all inquiries can be resolved immediately, right? It's easy to think, oh, we're gonna make them all that way. Okay, you can't, right? Some complex issues are just gonna require further investigation, maybe escalations, different departments. However, even in these cases, providing acknowledgement and setting clear expectations on timelines and responses will help manage that customer's expectations and still have the feeling of immediate because your initial response was immediate, even though the final resolution was not. And overall, providing immediate access to answers enhances that customer's satisfaction, builds trust, gives our companies a competitive advantage, and it's an essential aspect for fostering long-term customer relationships.
Which is all about retention, and retention is a key driver of revenue growth because of the fact that you don't have to chase down new customers. It costs 5 to 6 times more to get a new customer than to retain an existing customer. Plus, with proper retention, if they become acolytes for you, and now you got somebody who's bringing in customers at no additional cost. And that also is an improvement to your bottom line.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Very good. Next topic of discussion, please, Jeff. All right. So we typically think of our CX experience or our customer experience just being wrapped around support and, providing answers for people that need assistance because of the fact that they have already purchased something from us. But should we also consider it for other departments that are customer facing before they've made the purchase, such as in the sales area or for billing or marketing or anything else that may be customer facing? Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sales, most of us get. I'll spend a little bit of time on that. Immediate access to knowledge, to knowledgeable sales representatives, along with knowledge, self-service resources can help address their inquiries promptly and assist in closing that deal sooner. Typically, when somebody wants to spend money, their wallet's open, and that wallet has a timer attached to it on when they're going to close it. The faster we can get to that, the more likely that wallet will close with the money in our hands instead of the money in somebody else's hands. Delayed responses or unanswered questions can lead to lost opportunity and negative perception. I'm going to skip over to marketing instead of touching on the billing one because I want to come back to the billing because the billing is typically after the fact.
Sure.
Marketing we need to provide immediate access to answers to help potential customers understand our differentiation. And what we're trying to do there is marketing isn't about closing a sale. Marketing is about increasing that conversation rate. And we can look at our marketing conversation rates that are out there, but if we don't have that immediate response and that tie-in, then our conversation rates are going to be fairly low. It's going to bounce off like Teflon. Coming back to the billing thing, billing is often the fastest way to lead to poor CSAT and to churn, right? I think we've all heard the old adage, if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. When people are calling about billing issues and money that comes out of their wallet, they are more likely to escalate and more likely to get heated than for probably anything else. And as somebody who has a collections background, yeah, I've been yelled at a lot, right? And if I handled that relationship right, and I was able to deal with them at their worst, I've built a much stronger relationship that's going to help us in the future because they don't like being out of control either. And it strengthens the loyalty and the trust they've placed in that company by doing business with me. And then what you didn't touch on is cross collaboration across these functions. When customers are reaching out to us, they are not going and looking up how the company operates to determine what is the right place and the right channel to interact. They're going to reach out at the easiest, lowest expense to them, which may mean they interact with the sales team with a billing question, or the billing team with a sales or marketing question, what have you. So we have to have that immediate piece needs to extend across those, not just vertically, but also horizontally across them so you can handle immediate answers to prevent delays, prevent confusion, prevent contradictory or misleading information that can impact that customer satisfaction.
So having a platform that has the ability to pass the information along if you need to. So, if you're dealing with somebody in sales, you purchase something, you want to expand on that and buy something else, but there's a billing issue that's still standing on the side. The ability to have that across the platform interconnectivity is critical to helping enhance the customer experience. Is that part of what I'm hearing?
That's exactly it. That's the way to foster positive brand image. They don't care who they're talking to. They don't care that they didn't follow the process or got the wrong department or pressed the wrong button in the IVR. They care that this person, this experience, whatever is in front of them is going to solve their experience, which leads to the next question on omnichannel.
Very good. And excellent segue to that. So let's look at the next one. So if you would please, Jeff, there we go. What is the difference between multi-channel and omni-channel, and why is omni-channel so important? And these terms get mixed up a lot, especially out there in the marketplace. So let's see if we can provide some clarity to what we're talking about with those channels.
Yeah. Multi and omni-channel, they differ in the level of integration and customer experience consistency. Multi-channel means you have all those channels, but from a customer experience standpoint, from the customer's view, they operate in silos. They operate as different touch points, different engagements, different expectations, different answers to their questions. And migration between those channels is arduous and completely disconnected, where one channel has no idea what the other channel is talking about. So from a self-help experience, when I go to an assisted channel, they don't know what happened. That's multi-channel. It's not omni-channel. If I get transferred from billing to sales, and they don't know what's happening and have to start over again, that's multi-channel, not omni-channel. And every time there's a transition that customer experiences, we take a hit to all the things we've talked about: NPS, CSAT, VOC, churn. Every transfer takes a hit. And depending on your organization and your pre-existing loyalty, determines when you'll cross that threshold to where they've had enough. Omnichannel, on the other hand, focuses on delivering that unified experience we were talking about previously, where it's a consistent experience regardless of the touch point, regardless of the channel they enter or the device the customer is using. The omnichannel strategy, channels are all interconnected. The customer interactions feel seamless, whether they're going between tools, departments, channels, customers. It feels like it's one experience. Think of it like, when you go to the grocery store and they say, yeah, you can find that on aisle 7, or they walk you over to aisle 7 and help you with the selection, right? Omnichannel is more that second experience where it feels seamless. And you ask about why. So there's a couple pieces. First, why is this important? It's what the customers expect. I mean, I haven't met a single customer that's like, oh man, I love it that when I call them, it's completely different than when I email them. That doesn't happen, right? They want it to be the same everywhere, which is why like every McDonald's in the world or every McDonald's in each country is the same across that country. Why? Because that's what the customer expects. Customers have been telling us this for decades. We're just now listening, right? It gives us channel flexibility so we can switch them between channels. And not only can they pick different channels, but we can switch them and move them into a less costly channel, voice being the most costly, assisted or unassisted being the least costly channels. But you can do that with like a human in the loop type process or what have you. It allows for consistent messaging and brand experience everywhere they go. So it all feels like your company instead of being detached or is this a BPO or what have you. 4 is it gives you great data and insights and integrity on what's going on. What is that experience? A lot of companies have very good data on one channel, but kind of okay data on another channel. Real omnichannel is you get great data regardless of that channel. And lastly is, and I've touched on this a bit, is it allows for efficient uses of your resources, right? By doing a real omnichannel, you can have CSRs or agents that they just get what they get and they don't throw a fit, right? Whether it's a phone call, a chat, an email, they just get what's next, and it allows you to increase your utilization of your staff instead of having these silos that have to have lower occupancy just to maintain a decent service level. So what I'm getting at is these integrated channels, or what is now known as omnichannel, it's a competitive edge in the marketplace, and we can create a cohesive and consistent customer experience if we executed on it right.
So multiple things that I'm pulling from all of this, if I could. One of them would be the fact that a good example of an omni-channel experience may be that I go to a website and I'm looking for information and I go to support and I pulled up some information, but now I've got this little chat button on the side. Now I don't exactly understand what I've pulled up here and I need some additional feedback. I can click on that chat button. It pops up. All of a sudden I'm chatting with somebody for some other additional information. Now, as we're chatting, the discussion there evolves into a matter that might be easier to handle by voice. So the fact that I can take that chat and then escalate that same interaction into a voice, communicate with the agent by talking with them. And then in talking with them, they want to send me some information and I'm on my mobile phone, and probably the easiest way to get it to me might be via SMS, and that they can take that and then drive the information that I was looking for in addition back via SMS. So I'm doing all of these, but I'm utilizing different channels with the fact that it's chat, chat, voice, and SMS, but I'm also using different channels because I may be on my computer on a website, but now I've got something that's been driven to my mobile device. So those are other additional channels of consideration. Is that kind of an example of what you're driving at with this?
It is. It's exactly an example, and being able to promote and demote that interaction. There's a piece of that interaction in your example where it's very valuable for it to be voiced. That customer is frustrated, the customer is understanding, the customer is clearly showing signs of a friction point. That's a good time to promote that to voice so you can smooth that out, get that emotional balance with them, show that compassion. And once you've got that and they're on board, you're probably ready to demote it again. You're probably ready to do that, like troubleshooting, right? We're going to go troubleshoot something. That's great. I'm glad we're on board. Thanks, Kurt. Now I'm going to send you a text message. It's got some instructions, and I'm going to be manning that text line. So any messages, any questions you've got, feel free to text me back, and I've got you. So I'm sending you the first text. Get that started, and then reply to that text if you've got any questions. Does that sound good? That's a seamless experience. And that text should be, hey, this is Jeremy from Vertical. Here's your first couple of steps. Let me know how those go. Instead of some robot or whatever, right? And now it feels like I'm continuing my conversation, with my wife, where I start on the phone and then we start texting and then, or whatever, right? It feels like one interaction, and that's what the customers expect.
And as far as effect on the bottom line, not only are you, helping uh, eliminate the hits to your CSAT scores and MTS scores and things like that, but it sounds like another key component of all this is on your solution. You need to make sure that you're picking a solution that has the capability of being able to take these different escalations and do them from a common interface so that I'm not having to pivot from one screen to another screen to another screen and using different applications with all these different components. You need to try to make that seamless for your agents also.
Yes, it has to be a single pane of glass, is what we refer to that as. If it's not a single pane of glass, we've all seen, these beautiful command centers in movies where they've got a million screens, this huge projection, and all this really fancy stuff, and feel like, man, these people are really paying attention to a lot of stuff. As somebody who's run command centers and seen command centers in person, the only person watching that big screen are the big wigs that you walk through to show how cool it is. Nobody else is paying attention to that. Everybody else is watching what's right in front of them, and that's it, right? Because that's all we really have the attention to pay that we can pay. So that single pane of glass gives us the ability to give that experience because the customer or the CSR is getting that same experience. And another thing I'll note when it comes to demoting interactions is wherever that last leg is for that consumer or that customer is typically where they'll start that next interaction. So that last leg is in the voice channel, they're probably going to want to start in the voice channel. If that last leg is you demoted it to self-help or you demoted it to chat or SMS, that's probably where we're going to want to start again. So it advantages you to have omnichannel and have a culture and a process of demoting those interactions when it makes time. Because not only does it cost you less, but chances are that next interaction is going to cost you even less than this interaction did.
And there we're affecting the bottom line, which is what we're talking about today. Fantastic. Great feedback. Thank you, Jeremy. Let's look at the next topic, if you would, please, Jeff. Interesting here. At what point can we escalate from providing answers to providing solutions? Big difference between the two, right?
There is. And it typically occurs when customers encounter complex or unresolved issues that can't be solved with a straightforward response, right? If it's what color is the sky today, you're not going to turn blue into a solution. You're just not, right? Complex, when we've got a complex issue, they often involve multiple factors, different dependencies, technical intricacies. They can't be fully addressed through a single straightforward response, right? So if we are offering a complex product, for example, like EVs right now, electric vehicles can be considered a complex product versus somebody who is traditionally only on gas products, right? Like you can turn into a solution there because this is kind of a little bit sticky. Unresolved problems are another one, right? When previous attempts haven't resolved the issue, it indicates that there's a more in-depth investigation or alternative approach that's required. But Kate Murphy, the author of You're Not Listening, said it best when she said, repaired rifts are the fabric of relationships rather than patches on them. So when we have the unresolved issue, it's not, oh no, I need to avoid these at all costs. Well, to avoid them at all costs, you're gonna have to be omniscient, I think, because we all mess up all the time, right? Our organizations, our best efforts are gonna have failures built into them that we just don't see, right? The unknown unknowns. But when that happens, when those rifts occur, and we handle them right and provide that actual solution that is not only maybe to them, but that's scalable to other customers as well, that's a bonding moment. That's a moment where they've gone from, yeah, this is a great product to this is a great company, and I identify with them. And the last one is when there's a need for customization or personalization, right? In some cases, they require tailoring that goes beyond just providing generic answers, solutions. And these scenarios may involve offering personalized recommendations, creating customized configurations, in-depth consulting can happen. And these can often end up as being your high dollar customers, right? If they're interested enough, like we talked about earlier, that they're saying, help me spend more money with you, because that's what that conversation is, right? The conversation is, I want to spend more money with you. I like where you're at. Help me do that. And it's important to note that the decision to escalate from providing answers to providing solutions should be based on the specific context, right? Complexity of the situation, the customer's needs, are all things that should be taken into account. Customer support teams should assess the situation, determine the level of escalation is required, and ensure seamless communication and coordination between all those departments we've talked about to deliver a comprehensive solution that addresses the underlying challenges effectively, right? It's typically when they're saying they need that solution, we're typically communicating at a surface level that's cause and effect. We have to get to the cause and not just, wipe the nose. We need to solve the common cold or what have you.
And it sounds to me, in hearing your answer, there's a word that just kind of screams at me that we need to try to build as part of all of this with getting to the complexity, the branding, the customization, and that is generating almost a level of trust from that customer in the fact that we have their best interest at our forefront of what we're trying to do. Is that a good way to assess what I just heard?
Yeah, that's very fair. It's very fair. If they believe that we're in this together, that we're doing it together, and we're one cohesive unit, there's a significantly higher likelihood that they're going to be in it for the long haul, because it's no longer, I'm calling my telco provider. I'm calling this company that I care about. I'm calling a person.
Excellent. And that kind of leads us to the next question, or the next topic, if you would, please. And that is, how can there be a big difference on our bottom line if we can generate the trust and become, the term here is a trusted provider of solutions?
And so, in the context of NPS or Net Promoter Score, it's typically most often scored on a 1 to 7 scale. High value customers, what we're talking about here, where we're providing those solutions that are making a difference, those high value customers not only rate us a 7, but also personally identify with our brand. Simply receiving a 7 on a scale of 1 to 7 doesn't meet the criteria. It's not there. Both Gartner and Gallup and several other research outlets have told us that somebody who rates us a 7 and identifies with our brand is worth roughly 2 times in profit margin of everybody else on that rating scale, which means a 7 that doesn't align with our company or feel like they're part of that organization is just as valuable as somebody who constantly gives us 1s. Their churn rate, how much money they spend with us, how expensive it is for us to support them is indifferent in that scale. It's only those 7s that personally identify with us that tip and go to their way. When we provide those trusted solutions, we're most likely to convert 6s and 7s into companies and people, not companies, but into customers who identify with our brand. And we're able to grow that pool. And the more we do that, the more profit we're going to have, because again, those are the ones that are more valuable, less costly to operate with. And the author Malcolm Gladwell actually has a term for these groups. They're called mavens, right? And when we're growing our pool of mavens, we're just going to increase our profitability. Everybody else and even when we get feedback on we should make this change or that change, if they're not either near or in that group, that's a 7 that identifies with us, we shouldn't be listening to them, because they're going to dilute that message and dilute that offering from the customers that actually do matter, because they're the ones that are the most valuable. And it's important to note that while providing solutions may have upfront costs and requires investments in resources and expertise, the long-term benefits and positive impact to the bottom line make it a worthwhile strategy for driving our own sustainable growth.
And it's interesting. I'm going to give a personal story here about being a maven. I used to be, and I identified myself as a Saturn person when it came to cars. We bought our first Saturn. Yeah, we bought our first Saturn. We liked the omni body build. We liked the concept that it was built in Tennessee, so it was American made, engineered, all that good stuff. Bought our first one, got treated like kings. Service was fantastic. The cars were great. We ended up by the end of the by the time that unfortunately that GM killed them off, we had bought in four different Saturn vehicles. We were involved with promoting and selling at least a half dozen more to family and friends. Um, and we were proud. I actually had, shirts and whatever else that I had around the fact that I was a proud driver of a Saturn vehicle. I was invested in their brand and they treated me well. And I was able to turn around with that. And yeah, I'm certain that it didn't hurt that I helped their bottom line to the degree that I can. Um, that's what you're trying to do, is right. You're trying to build customers that have that type of identity, correct?
That's exactly what we're talking about. Ones that here at Hundred Douglas we refer to them as they bleed Hundred Douglas orange, right? Like, and a good indicator if they bleed Hundred Douglas orange is probably if they're a continuous pain in the rear end, right? If they continue to engage with us and are expressing these frustrations, who does that with somebody you don't care about? If think of in our personal lives, we have somebody that is a pain and we really just don't care about them one way or the other. Are we really going to continue to engage with them to get what we expect out of that relationship? We're just going to move on, right? Those ones that continue to engage, and I can think of some names here at Hunter Douglas, but that fit that bill, and we recognize that these are our mavens. It's difficult. It's frustrating for us too, and it's hard to continually meet their expectations. But we know that when we meet or exceed their expectations, we're meeting and exceeding the expectations of the ones that aren't speaking, the ones that don't give that voice, the ones that aren't the mavens, but are looking to be like them. We're satisfying them, and now we're growing our brand. So somebody like you, Kurt, would be somebody who should have been invested in by that organization to lean into that relationship and be more like what Kurt wants, because that's more likely you're going to generate what we want, which is growing our pool of mavens.
There you go. Very good. Thank you for that. Next topic, please. And interesting here. Is simply moving to the cloud the solution? I mean, we talk about, well, everything's moving to the cloud. Is the cloud itself the solution?
No, is a
Okay.
short answer. The cloud, I'm going to demystify the cloud for a few folks. The cloud is somebody else's computer. That's the cloud. It's just another term for it. It's more integrated, but moving to cloud is not a one-size-fits-all solution, but it can offer numerous benefits to businesses. Whether it's the right solution for your organization, it's specific on your needs, your goals. So here's some things to consider, right? The cloud gives you scalability and flexibility, right? There's things that you can do quickly, easily, cost-effectively, standing them up and matching the business requirements that the cloud allows. So if scalability and flexibility is important, that's the first box to check. Then you're probably thinking maybe the cloud is an option for you. The second one is cost efficiency, right? It's important to be careful. Not only can it give you a lot of cost efficiency, but you also have to be careful that and look at the total cost of ownership, right? While you're not standing up an on-prem piece of hardware, which has very high upfront cost, you've got to include factors like what are the data transfer fees, storage costs, licensing fees. How much effort is it going to take to get your data back if you decide to break that relationship? And then what do you do with the data? Where does that data go when you do break that relationship, if that's where you go, to get to that true cost effectiveness, right? So is it really going to be cost more efficient? Well, you got to do the math. You got to look into it and say, is it going to be right? Large scale organizations, left and right, the answer is yes. Medium and small organizations, more and more often the answer is yes, but it may not be yes for your organization. You're going to have to do the math. That allows for enhanced collaboration and accessibility. It enables remote work. It improves communication and collaboration within the business, right? We talked about omnichannel. Without the cloud, omnichannel is not necessarily impossible, but it's a very costly feat to do omnichannel without the cloud. It also is reliability and disaster recovery important to you. If it is, the cloud can give you a lot better redundancy at a lot lower cost. Having a fully redundant system that's on-prem is significantly more expensive than the cloud is, because not everybody needs that. Like when you have full redundancy, you're paying for, 2 complete connections to 2 complete providers 100% typically. When you do it through the cloud, you're not necessarily doing that because it's all integrated. And then the last one to consider, well, the second to last one to consider is innovation and time to market. If that's going to be valuable to you, then cloud is probably valuable. And the last one is security. I'm not the security expert. I can't talk in depth about security, what you should consider for security, but I can tell you that in certain places, connections to the cloud for like healthcare or like defense, national defense, the cloud is questionable when it comes to that type of stuff. But if you're selling shades like we are, or a doctor's office or veterinary clinic, those security areas may not be quite to the same degree for you to consider. So it's important to recognize the cloud. While it's not a universal solution, there are scenarios, and there are quite a few of them, where it is a good one. And you can even maybe look at like a hybrid model if there's certain things that you need to hold on to locally. Data sensitivity, data security, specific applications needs, and cost of ownership is all things that need to be considered. Each organization needs to go through that evaluation themselves and evaluate their unique circumstances, their unique requirements, and determine whether moving forward to the cloud aligns with that organizational strategy and goals. More and more, the answer is yes, but I don't know your company, I don't know your business. I can't tell you if it's yes for you. I can tell you, talk with experts that can help walk you through that and help you do the math and make the determination on where that engagement is for you.
Gotcha. So it sounds like the cloud may not be the end-all solution, but it may be the appropriate tools or components of the appropriate tools to getting to the ultimate solution of what you're looking to do, right? So it's more of a tool than the actual solution itself.
Yeah, if the short answer is yes, it's a method, right? It's a method to the end result. So if everything, Kurt, that you and I have talked about gets the people listening, gets you excited, and you want to do it in the most cost-effective, flexible way, it has to be on the table as a consideration. You have to look at it. You have to see what's there. We made the transition a couple of years ago from on-prem for a CCaaS solution to a cloud for CCaaS solution. And just an example, when we needed to stand up an IVR change, it would take weeks just to design and get everybody on board with it because of how difficult the tool was to get exactly what we wanted. And then it would take weeks of testing and then weeks to deploy, right? So from the time we knew we needed to change in our IVR solution, we got 6 weeks before it hits the road. With our existing cloud solution, it's later that day. From right now to when we've deployed it, it's up and running by the end of the day. Typically, we wait till the next business day to make reporting clean, but there's been a few times where we just changed it midday, and we just knew that we were changing it midday, and we were able to do that. The previous provider, not possible. It was 6 weeks at the fastest, and we didn't often hit that 6 weeks. Sometimes it was a full 2 months before we had it implemented. That's not agile.
Yeah, and that's bottom line difference right there.
It is. That's 6 weeks of complaints, 6 weeks of people going to the wrong place, 6 weeks of extra transfers, 6 weeks of apologizing, 6 weeks of escalations. There's 6 weeks of that versus 6 hours.
Yeah, and that just scratches the surface on the human cost of what you have for all of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was our last topic of discussion that we had. Again, thank you for those that have joined in, and those of you who are listening to the recorded version of this. This has been presented by Vertical Communications. If you would, next slide, please. Always remember that Vertical Communications wants to be your strategic customer experience partner. We do provide the comprehensive communication solutions. We've been doing this for many, many years, decades, as it says. And it's our goal to tailor a solution for you. And that's all about what we went to the very beginning of our discussion, right? Trying to understand the goals, have that, back end solution and engineer from there to work our way backward to get from the desired outcome to using the right tools, whether they be cloud premise, to get the solution built for you and be invested with you as your strategic partner. Jeremy, I just wanted to thank you again for your time and effort and preparation and the insight that you're able to provide for everybody today. Terrific information, invaluable to us. And I just wanted to give you my thank you for what you've done for us today.
Yeah, you're welcome, Kurt. It's a passion of mine. The contact center industry is regularly set up to be a bad experience. It not intentionally, but it's bad for the customers. It's bad for the people that are working there, and it doesn't have to be. There are ways of doing it, and you have to have a vision. You have to have a direction. Once you've got that, then you need the right tools to do it and to do it quickly and easily. What is that speed of market? And I mean, I've had this joke for the last 25 years. It's always funny, but it never is at the same time. Folks ask, okay, Jeremy, when do you need it? And the answer is always, I needed it yesterday. Right? They always laugh, but it's always that nervous laugh. But the reality is I did, right? I needed it yesterday because the pain's today. And these tools that we've deployed at Hunter Douglas have helped us get closer to yesterday than we've ever been. We had an example where we had, because of snowballing effects, without getting too much in the weeds, we had dealers on hold for up to 3 hours. And because of our cloud solution, we're able to make some technology changes and quickly find some personnel issues, some performance management issues that by the end of the week, so Wednesday, we were having people on hold for 3 hours. It was a slow escalation to that, to where Thursday we had them on hold for 15 minutes. By Friday, we were down to 3 or 4 minutes, and that we've been able to maintain that. And
Wow.
that level of agility and being able to find, the right hand to shake, which is a new version of the throat to choke, right? Find the right hand to shake or the right body to hug to solve the problem. The cloud solution allowed that to be possible, gave us that agility that previously I would have been, like I said, could have been up to 6 weeks or more before we had that change. And I don't think my career would have lasted that 6 weeks had it taken that long to fix. Just saying.
Mm-hmm. Understood. A great way to end today's webinar. Excellent way to highlight your personal experience. So, Jeff, anything further on your end?
Yeah, we don't have any questions, so that's it for today's webinar. Thank you guys so much for joining. It was really great to hear from you, Jeremy and Curtis. The next webinar that we're going to do is next month. We're going to talk about how AI can supercharge your digital transformation. The AI discussion is everywhere, and we're excited to be part of that as well. So we'll see you next month. Thank you guys again for joining, and have a great day.